You wanna see? She's got it.
Hey, thank you everyone for being here. I'll call forward the Finance Committee of the Fallbrook Regional Health District. February 4th already. So, did the groundhog see his shadow here?
Well, I think since we don't have groundhogs very much here in Fallbrook, I think we ought to get our own squirrel. And have the squirrel make its predictions, and I would prognosticate that the squirrel's prognostication was, we ain't got no more winter.
So he
It's
saw
80 degrees. He saw no shadow,
No shadow.
so no, but the rodent from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania definitely saw its shadow and said 6 more weeks. But apparently his prediction rates have been like terrible.
Really bad.
I think a squirrel might be there.
about as good as the old Farmer's Almanac, I bet.
Actually, Farmer's Almanac turns out to be pretty good.
Is it?
We used it back in Foundation for Senior Care when we were looking at some of our events. Because somebody was like, I don't know, it's rain. So we went back 10 years, we're like 90% chance, no rain.
Wow.
Of course, pre-climate change.
You're like,
We had no issues with weather.
Do we have anybody on the whatever?
nobody.
Nobody on Zoom, nobody here, and I received no emails via the email account.
Okay. All right, well, let's move on to, let's see, agenda item, that's it right
You
there.
got it.
Yeah. So, take it.
Okay, so balance sheet comparison from December to November. You saw an overall increase of 206,000. That is pretty normal behavior for us because you see a lot of the property taxes coming in, so that's pretty
Actually,
self-explanatory.
So I thought it was 500,000 when I looked.
Overall,
Yeah.
we saw an increase in the difference between liabilities and equities from month to month of
Okay.
206,000. So that's what the actual difference is.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, the property tax revenue we received was 382,000, so that's that difference. If we run to report 2, which is just the net income for the month, so that's just our month snapshot. Again, we're running in the positive with a total of 218,350. Again, our expenses are fairly standardized. The revenue comes in higher, hence not a surprise. We don't do grant distributions in December, so we also show a lower expenditure than is seen in next month's. Report 3, which is the big comparison between admin and wellness center and across to year-to-date budget. Just something to slightly notice is if you look at property tax revenue, actual versus budget, I actually over budgeted us by about $10,700, meaning we received less than I anticipated. This is relatively nominal amount and may make up in January and or may make up in April when we see other bumps, but we're still sitting at 99.32 of the projected budget. So I don't think we have to be nervous.
I thought that was remarkable.
I think
It was
on how
pretty
close.
Yeah, within 1%.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a fairly consistent, steady amount that we receive year over year. Up till the last maybe 2 years, I think. Did I start last year? I don't remember. We started being more liberal with the estimates. Before then, I had been very conservative, but ending each year with being considerably under the estimate, we decided to try to be a little bit more consistent with what it's likely to be. So still glad to see that it's coming out pretty close to it.
Yeah.
Couple of line items to really point out is on advertising and promotions, that first expense. You'll see that we are over it considerably in both admin and in wellness center. So year to date for both classes, we're sitting at 257% over what was estimated. Again, I want a reminder there that a lot of that was the wrapping of the truck. We took an opportunity there because the paint on the truck was not going to get better. We needed to kind of invest a little. Again, we're not talking a huge amount of dollars over. So we're also talking about a lot of that advertising is pushing advertising for programming at the wellness center. That's still a smart investment to the community to making sure that they're aware of those services. So we are watching it, just something to note. Right? If you move under the community health contracts, you'll see that bump of funding that we gave to Fallbrook Food Pantry. Originally, they would have been budgeted at $50,000 at this point. We've provided $130,000. Again, that was a board agreed due to budget shutdowns and continued concerns about supporting the neediest in our community. So,
as Shay said, we've gotten a whole bunch less. I know that's what we were concerned about.
Right. What they're seeing is that it's a slow effect, right? They are seeing more community support, which is good.
Yeah.
They're seeing tremendous community need, not good. But some of the larger funders like San Diego Foundation stepped up and provided additional funds. The San Diego Food Bank did definitely talk about they had fewer resources to give. I haven't checked back in since we saw her really in December, so I can just do a follow-up, see if they're seeing any more fallout from cuts to additional benefits. I would think anyone who's receiving federal dollars in any trickle-down method is going to be saying they're seeing it. We know that the healthcare folks are still seeing it, and those cuts haven't even come into full fruition yet. So the other thing I'll just point down to is if you go under district direct care services, under our health services and clinics, admin shows that we haven't spent our $250,000 to date. Again, that's to be expected. We didn't have that clinical partnership come online yet. But if you go over to the wellness center, you'll see the expense there is pretty close to what's budgeted. They're under by about $3,200. But what's of note there is, and we'll see this as we go into budgeting, that number has increased from year to year to year, which is an exact perfect line demonstrating that the district is doing the things that the community wants us to do. So having those programs that Teresa's been able to bring in, those program MOUs that we've been able to do, this shows that investment in our community, specifically for health services.
That's great.
Yeah. So that was something I really wanted to point out. Everything else is pretty much consistent with budget. We have some meeting expenses, which are a little bit over in the wellness center area, but again, the actual was 860 or 896. The budget was 300. Nominal amount. Those make sense for those meeting expenses because again, it's community support, community involvement. Those are related mostly to some program expenses as well. So as we go forward, we might start doing some more refinement in looking at where some of those specific program costs are. The goal is once the new finance person starts, we'll be able to do some more specific detailed reporting on programming. And that's something that we're going to want for future efforts. Other than that, I don't really have anything else on report 3, but those are the details of things that I think are of note.
We did have some other income of 25,000. I thought, what was that all about? It's down just before the net income. Whatever it was, that's nice. But not significant.
Oh, no. Under the net other income, you show the negative under the actual. That is actually, I think, a transfer of funds from one to the other. Sue, that's an accounting.
I'm sorry, I can't find what you're talking about.
So, at
What
the
page?
second page of report 3,
Okay,
right above the final total of net income, under net other income under the Health and Wellness Center, actual shows,
that's other income minus other expenses.
right,
So it's the interest income, dividend income minus depreciation is the 175. Is that what you're asking? Oh, on the wellness ratio.
that one.
Oh,
That's just,
no, see, I was.
Oh, it's
saying,
different.
so it's other income
Mhm.
minus other expenses equals that. There's no income, minus 25 is minus 25.
oh yeah, so it's zero income minus the depreciation costs. So it's not really a savings, it's just
No,
depreciation.
it's just my,
Gotcha.
And that's, we don't generally spend a lot of time on depreciation because we don't really worry about it for tax purposes, but every other regular business would look at it in a more,
we'll just get into it.
and some people like it a lot. Like she's an accountant. And I'm not. But I did get an A in my accounting class.
Yay, all right.
Just thought I'd point that out. It's kind of hard. All right, that's all I have for report 3. I digress.
It's a good report.
Yeah. Report 4 is our investment compliance report that Susan puts together for us. So keep in mind, we have basically 3 different entities we do investments with, which is LAIF, the Local Agency Investment Fund. They hold one of the smallest amounts of funds, sitting at about 4.5% of our total portfolio. The yield for December was 4.025. They only pay out in quarterly earnings, and December is not one of those quarterly payment months, so you don't see any income pulled from that. Cal Trust, we have 2 different funds, the medium and the liquidity. The medium fund, together they hold about 78% of our portfolio. That will be relevant when we talk about the CDD and the reimbursement where we may want to pull. The medium fund is sitting at 4.1% for their 1-year yield, and liquidity was sitting at 4.39%.
They're pretty consistent, aren't they?
Very consistent, which is to be expected considering they're conservative funds because of government. All right, and then finally California Class, which holds about 17% of our portfolio in December. Their 30-day yield was 3.87%. Again, all of our investments are in compliance with our 25-26 investment policy, and we have enough funds on hand to meet our next 12 months set of requirements. So that's our investment report. Do you have any questions on that?
No, very good.
Susan, anything of note that you would like to point out?
Just that Howard has brought up in the past, on the Cal Trust, the 3rd paragraph, it reported 0 in unrealized gains or losses. Every time I see this, I think, how can a portfolio have no change?
0.
And if you look at the statement on the next page, it's 0.
Yeah.
So it's not like I'm missing it but every time I say, the billions that they have.
Yeah.
It's hard to have rapid swings when you have that big a pot. It's the smaller pots that you can see those shifts.
And negligible.
Negligible, nothing of note. So that'll jump us over to report 5, so we can skip past the included statements from the investments, which are there for your perusal to be studied as of interest. But report number 5 is our check detail report. Again, not really anything new in there. The only thing to note is you'll see at the top on page 15, We have Department of Education, Mohila. That's the Mohila, right? I said it and said it wrong. I said, you'll see that those checks will be the last time. That was the district being able to take advantage of the IRS's student loan repayment program. And that ceased in December of 25. I don't believe they extended it at this point, did they?
Extended, but the district's choosing not to continue for
At
the
this
time
point.
being until it's discussed in benefits.
Okay, so we may bring that back for consideration for the 26-27 budget. And see how finance and board feels about that as a staff benefit. Okay. Other than that, there wasn't really anybody or anything new on there, unless anybody else had any questions.
There was an issue a couple weeks ago with
Michelle's
Michelle's Place.
Yes.
Right, so you'll actually see that,
I see the one check.
you're gonna see that actually straighten itself out
Okay.
in January. Judith and I went back and forth with the bookkeeper. And then yesterday I sat down with her. Our contracted amount, somehow from a previous time, she had a reoccurring payment on there. And while we had asked that it be ceased, it somehow got reactivated. So we sat down yesterday and outlined what was owed total on the contract, subtracted out everything we've paid to date, and did a final payment. What was supposed to happen in this fiscal year that there was supposed to be 2 payments only, one in July and one in January. And somehow that reoccurring payment got kicked back in. So we haven't overpaid them. It's just, that's why you saw those double checks for a while. That was an error that we've been able to correct. It didn't hurt us in any way. They weren't overpaid. It's just the allocation amounts was incorrectly calculated.
But we did have to ask for a void of one of the checks.
Yes,
The
we
history
did.
will show. The
That's
history
what I
will
was-
show.
The
Yeah, I
history
was
will
just
show
wondering.
one of the January checks.
Okay.
I think,
January
no.
15th is gonna show 2 checks.
yeah, January 15th. Making sure it
Okay.
wasn't shown in December.
Yeah, no,
Stated
it's
here.
gonna be the January 15th, it's gonna show 2 checks, one of those was voided, the larger of the 2.
Okay.
I see Sun Realties. I heard yesterday that Roy fell and somewhere on his body is a cast.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Roy Melissa?
Uh-huh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, we'll
That's all
check,
I know.
we'll just check in to see how he's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that from G.
Okay. We'll check to make sure he's all right.
Yeah.
Any other comments, questions, concerns on check detail report? Nope. All right, report number 6 are the, typically 1 credit card statement.
Hey, Susan, I'll get it.
Would
I know. Well, she was- I know. She was kind of-
Oh,
Rumor
Susan.
mill.
She was just like, I'm done with this.
She was upset about Roy.
So distraught.
Good one, Howard. Thank you, thank you.
So we only have the 1 credit card statement. Umpqua was not used during this period, just a 5-star. So you'll see our standard things. This is where you'll still see those unique charges under Teresa's card
And
for.
then Mystic Luxury Limo again.
And that's primarily just finalizing out the total costs from that holiday event. Any other questions on any of those charges? I will just point out a couple of AI subscriptions that Judith and I are taking advantage of. Judith brought forward Claude AI because it allows us to have a lot more reporting function. It creates some graph charts that chat doesn't like to do. But we are starting to use that in-house, primarily just the 2 of us until our AI policy is brought in. Making sure that nothing sensitive as far as district finances that aren't already made generally public But just letting you know, we are using that, as is
That's great.
everybody.
Yeah.
But we're watching and being very sensitive to the information that we put into it. Everything that we've done so far has been pretty much publicly available information.
And how's it going?
So good.
Yeah,
Yes,
amazing, right?
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it took a report that would take me like 6 hours and
Yeah.
I did it.
Wow.
And put it in a table form that just saves so much time in formatting. So much time. So I could ask her a question. She's like, tick, 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 here's your answer. Yeah, okay, I wasn't ready for the answer yet, but all right, let's catch up.
So you mentioned the policy, so how was that being developed?
So we used AI.
Yeah,
And used some other policies from some of the other special districts on how they've got it, really kind of outlining how it can be used. So once Judith and I roll it out to the rest of the team, Teresa's been using it a little bit. Again, we've discussed it. We know employees will use it. It's smart for them to be able to use it.
yeah,
It's also built into almost all the rest of the software. So really having a policy is a good reminder to the staff on how to use this resource,
mhm,
how it should and should not be. For example, Teresa and her team have access to some private health information. Obviously, that information can never be put into AI because then it becomes public to some extent, right? It builds, the models build on that. But to be able to take aggregated information, non-personal, to be able to put that in there to report results, that may seem like a very obvious example, but that is the kind of thing that we want to make sure the team is educated on as well. So between the policy and then some ongoing education, we'll bring that forward so that everyone has that available. And the policy, of course, helps protect the district so that no one can say, well, I didn't know I wasn't allowed to just take everyone's social security numbers and put it in there. Not that very many people have access to that kind of data, but the idea is to keep it private.
And that will come to the board for.
Yeah, once we have that policy fleshed out, we'll write it up. We'll make sure Alex is comfortable with how it's written. Then it'll be brought to the board. We have some plans to start working on updates to the employee handbook and a few other district policies. So those will start rolling forward. And AI really writes a nice policy.
yeah.
Sorry, but it does. So then that takes us to report number 7, which is our community development disbursements. As a reminder, these are for capital improvements that have been put in primarily at the Mission Road property. A few different deferred maintenance things that were here at admin. We pay for those out of the operating account, but then we bring that to the committee here to ask the operating account to be reimbursed. And those funds then come out of the investment funds. Historically, we have pulled from LAIF for that, which is why LAIF is now sitting at the smallest percent of our portfolio. For a while, when the short-term yields were really paying off a lot more, it made sense to pull from that longer-term investment. Now that that yield curve is kind of, I don't want to say it's truly rebalancing, but you're not seeing quite that same thing. It might make more sense for us to consider on a quarterly basis if the committee has a preference for which investment vehicle and or the finance team has a preference for which fund we reimburse our operating account from the investments. Remember, CalTrust has the largest amount, but their yields are sitting at 4.1 and 4.4 basically. California Class was sitting at 3.9 and LAIF was sitting at 4 points basically. I would like to have us consider leaving the funds in LAIF so that we don't draw that down even more. We could take it out of some of the earnings that we've gotten out of California Class over the last year, or we could go look at the liquidity fund for CalTrust. And I don't know if anyone has any particular recommendation. I think at this point, it's pretty much 6 of one, half the other. The yields are pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that I was told was that we are way too heavily weighted into the medium term fund at CalTrust. That regardless of the yield that we're getting, that we have too much into that fund. And that yield should not be our primary concern, just because of the interest rates, that we were always going to be getting less out of class once the interest rates started heading down, and that we knew that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And so then, their only, and I think I highlighted in this month's board report, that their only, recommendation was to try to balance out what we have in CalTrust medium. How we choose to do that in the long term, I wrote something else into that, but that's a whole other topic. But, I guess CalTrust is the place they primarily point to for us to start taking from.
So would the board be satisfied if we choose to reach out to CalTrust against the medium fund and do this initial $25,000 reimbursement back to our operating account?
I suspect two of us would like that. Upon Judith's advice, which
Yeah. All right,
I'm
so
not prepared to question.
you're right. Well, and this is why, one of the reasons why we've invested in, and luckily Judith already has an interest in looking at some of the public investments. She just came back for, was it CDAC? Is that what it's called?
Yes, diet.
One of the acronyms, which is basically about public investing to some extent. And so she comes back with these nuggets and we have been listening.
Makes sense.
So Susan, unless you have any other insights.
My one comment is that the 5 million in CalTrust, maybe that's going to be a gain or loss when you go to sell it. But
And
I
that
don't
was-
think that, well, we don't pay tax, so.
Right, and so that was something for the municipal service advisor, which was the only thing I have in the board meeting thing that I suggested. Because they said it's time for maybe a municipal service advisor to come rebalance that amount, but they said Lake is probably, not that we need to, but Lake we should.
Life is
Yeah.
a problem.
Yes, I know. So, I mean, class, I guess if you don't wanna take an unrealized loss,
I don't think it matters, does it?
technically, no.
No. And we're only talking 50,000.
You're talking 25,000.
25,000.
Oh, 25.
25.
Right, so if you follow, and it was an investment team, who gave me that, it was 2 people, they have an investment advisory firm. So I spoke with them very briefly, like they did it, they gave me a lot of time, but they just looked at it briefly and said, this is a recommendation, but you guys are relatively small. And so we can't really take you on. But they were like, you wanna do this and do that, but you wanna look for a municipal service advisor to really sit down with your board and look at these things, but she just said, start trying to rebalance your medium-term fund.
Why only 25?
Even though the report shows the 48, remember, we're looking at, the report shows the full fiscal year, we're just looking at the quarter. Right, so we're just looking at October through December. And that came out to a $24,096.56. And of course, we always round to the exact. So we'll go ahead and look toward pulling that from the CalTrust Medium Fund. To Judith's point, it might be smart for us to maybe in March or April, look to see if we can get some guidance to come into the committee here about how we can rebalance those investments.
Good.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll look at that. Judith, I'm gonna tap you obviously to see which month and or
I'll
which
give you guys-
advisor to bring us.
Yeah, well, for next month's meeting, I'll probably provide you guys what they provided us at CDIAC that specifically impacts our size district. So there were a couple of presentations that really focus on our size district and what they recommend. And then after that, then I can go and search, as long as you guys are okay, you know, in the finance committee with what they recommend, because it's their recommendations for them. And then we can go and look for municipal service advisors.
Good.
All right, well, and that is all that I've got as far as the financial reports. Before we go into discussion items,
Well,
which we actually have some on.
yeah, right. So let's go to discussion items.
All right, we've already discussed this once before, and we had your blessing to look at other banks to move our operating account. Again, we've had some dissatisfaction with Bank of California. So Judith and I basically met with 3 different banks. One of them, their platform was clearly not what we were interested in. The second platform was better, but not great. And then 5 Star, where we already have an account, was the preferred platform. So what we'd like to make a recommendation is that we move our operating account over to 5 Star. And then the cash flow account, that secondary account we hold, move and open a new account at Commerce Bank of California. Both of these do lots of and primarily just municipal banking, so they're very familiar with how we do things. This would negate the fun chore that Raquel has every year when we have to get new signature cards and she chases you around with a piece of paper and then you end up having to go to the bank and all that nonsense. We will have one signature page that you will sign here. We will submit to the bank. That's it. It doesn't have to be secured with our social security numbers because again, they work in the municipal sphere so much better. I really enjoyed working with the representatives at Commerce Bank of California. We know the folks at 5 Star and are very comfortable with them, but their banking platform was preferred for the day-to-day. And so that's why we'd like to move that account there. That will require a resolution, which Alex has already drafted up with us, presuming you would support our decision here, which would have to go to the board meeting. So that would get voted on next week if you are amenable to that change. And then we can start the changeover process. We won't close the account at Bank of California for a year. Wow. Right about a year, wasn't that the recommendation?
Are you talking about what I had planned on?
Yeah.
Mine was closing it in July of this year.
In July of this year. So it would still give us several months to make sure that we've got everything smooth, making sure that our tax disbursements go into the appropriate account and all of that, make those shifts. This would allow a lot of that longer term planning that we've talked about, being able to do more online ACH payments of those routine regular payments. That would be able to be done online a lot smoother. Basically, it will make the whole process a lot more efficient.
So does the Commerce Bank have a presence in Fallbrook or not?
No, none of them have actual brick and mortars. I think they both have a branch in Sacramento. I think 5 Star has another one in like Roseville or something like that. But they're pretty much everything is done online. But the nice part is that we see their reps at all the CSDA events. Many of our like districts are going with some of those banks, which is nice. So we have a person to call should we need something. And even though Bank of California is less than a mile away, we have zero banking relationship.
Wow.
So
Says it all.
I believe it does. So as long as you're both comfortable with making that recommendation, we'll move that forward to the board meeting.
How are you feeling about that, Sally?
I will concur with that. That's fine.
Me too.
Wonderful, thank you very much for that. And then obviously, as we just discussed, making a recommendation for that reimbursement of the $25,000 from the community development disbursements from Cal Trust Medium Fund. So that will also then be on the board agenda. We've had that as a consent item in the finance meetings the last few months, but I think it makes more sense to have it be a separate action item on the agenda, just so that those folks who aren't reading their finance minutes are staying up to date. I mean, I'm sure your other board members are reading those finance minutes. I'm sure they are.
It's like I read every
Other committee minute. I'm sure you do, because you're a good board member. But just to keep it fresh.
No, it's good. And for the public too. You know,
And, yeah.
It looks, you know, more transparency and that's good.
That is the goal. So that's it, as far as discussion items on the agenda, unless, there's anything else you want on this, I will turn it back to you, Mr.
All
Chair.
right. Anything from you, Sally, or staff?
Well, I was just curious how the interviews are going.
Oh,
It's going
great question.
fabulous.
Great
Yeah.
question.
We have our candidate chosen.
Oh.
We have a start date.
When does
Oh,
he or she start?
She starts February 23rd.
Oh my
Great.
gosh, that's wonderful.
so her name is Olga. Have we figured out how to say her last name?
No, we have not.
Is it German?
Russian.
Russian.
Oh, Russian, okay.
But she came with good experience, so, we interviewed with candidates last week, so, they had, poor people, they had to interview with Judith, then they interviewed with Susan, and then I came in for a vibe check. And all three of us agreed that Olga had best experience, seemed to have the most knowledge. Luckily, we're fortunate, she lives here in Fallbrook. So
Good
it's
president, yeah.
It's always nice when we get a local, because now we'll have two.
She has a master's in economics.
She has yeah,
Wow.
from University of Moscow.
Moscow.
So when we
Whoa.
say Russian, I mean, she is straight up.
So she's got a great accent.
She does,
Mhm.
but it is
Clear.
It's very clear.
Yeah.
She's been in the States for a while. She worked for quite a long time with the Irvine Company in Orange County. And I pressed her for like, what brought you to Fallbrook?
Yeah.
And really it came out of COVID. At the time, she was very frank saying, I just kind of freaked out, didn't like, being so close, and they wanted some space. And so she has a couple of kids, and Fallbrook seemed like the perfect place to homestead. And so
Oh,
we'll
good.
be able to take advantage of her skill set here. She'll report to Judith, and we will spend probably the first month really training, working with Marnie on some of the systems, but hopefully she'll come in and show the experience that we expect, and we won't probably continue with two bookkeepers for
Yeah.
very long.
Well, that's great.
Will we get to
Congratulations.
meet her at some point?
You'll probably get to see her. We'll drag her into the March finance meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, we should.
We should just rip that Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
Here she is. And she'll sit here like, I just got here.
I'll be sure and.
Yeah, you'll greet her nicely because you are a nice person. So we are in the just as related. We have completely stripped the room upstairs.
Oh,
We had our new maintenance company come in, take out all of that god awful shelving,
mm-hmm.
take it down to the walls,
Yeah.
repaint, replaster, or retexture. Handyman is coming back next week. I think that's next week to build new desk and chairs. So that's the last really office renovation. But it really updates. Don't realize that space was quite larger than it appeared when it had all that little stuff in there. So it will really be nice to have that be a nice clean space.
Good.
Thanks. Well, good on you.
Good question, Sally. Anything else from anybody? All right, we are adjourned. Good meeting.
Thank you very much. 2:40, perfect.
Let's see.
On the resolution, Rachel, are you asking for the need to be indicated that you're also opening up the e-commerce? California. I didn't ask for that.
No, I don't